automatically.
Okay.
Okay. Yay.
Yay, we are live.
Awesome.
And I'm so happy to have a guest for you here tonight on Comic Spot. A lot of times there are no people here watching, or you might pop in and out, or they'll watch later. But just for those who will turn in later and listen, I'd like to do the introduction in full. Juliana Heng is an autistic, non-binary stand-up comedian from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Juliana is the founder of I Laugh KL for Kuala Lumpur, I Laugh KL comedy show, and has been doing stand-up comedy since September 2017. Juliana is the finalist of Bangkok International Comedy Competition 2019, King Kong at the Comedy Store, London, December 2019, and Beat the Frog at the Frog and Bucket Comedy Club, Manchester, January 2020. Juliana is also the creator of the medley show Walking on Spectrum, sharing their story as someone on the autistic spectrum and gender spectrum through stand-up comedy, spoken word, poetry, and storytelling. Walking on Spectrum has played in seven fringe festivals, OMG, and is currently playing in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Oh my gosh. If I was her mother, which I could easily be age-wise, and then some, I would be so proud to have her as I'm using the wrong pronoun. Please excuse me. I'm stupid. It's not because I'm old. It's because I'm stupid. Yes, I would be so proud to have Juliana as a child. I would. Thank you so much for coming on to Comic Spot, Juliana. Say hello to everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Linda, for having me.
You bet. I would like you to talk about what it is like to be on two different spectrums at this time in our world history.
It is fabulous. Yes. Yeah, but I would say that it's pretty, I mean, in the Western world, I think it could be already a norm because I've met queer and autistic comedians a couple of times. I already known a couple of them who are on both spectrums. But in Malaysia, it's kind of like pretty unheard of, it's like being autistic is like already like no one really hears of. And also being queer is also pretty much a class of its own because most of the comics in Malaysia are straight Asian males. Yeah, so definitely it's like, so that's why even if you say that you are queer, I mean, you are not on the spectrum, you're just queer is something really new in the comedy scene. And for me, it's being on both. It's like, especially in a country like Malaysia where people don't even know what being on the spectrum is, like being on autism spectrum or even on the gender spectrum is, it becomes much like a job of a teacher, like instead of doing comedy, you're ending up like, okay, how do I educate the audience, on my condition and also on my gender identity. So that is it. But for when I perform on Zoom, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's pretty commonplace where I meet most of them, some of them who are like on both spectrum is pretty a common thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, so how do you take how is it that you can educate people who have never experienced, someone that is on both spectrums and do it in comedy? It seems like it isn't that easy to do, but you found a way to be successful.
For me, is how I do it is I strive as much as possible to be myself. I mean, although comedy in my country seems to be very based off from New York, where they say, okay, you need to be fast, you need to be loud, you need to cut to the jokes quickly, that kind of stuff. It's like, but for me, I felt that isn't really my style. So I felt that if, let's say, speaking slightly slowly and modulated is my way, let's go for it. And if I'm like just be excited, and if I can be colorful too, it's like I don't need to be like, oh, you have to just wear black t-shirt and the wall is black as well, so you just disappear, only your face talking on stage. That's what's happening in KL most of the time. Yeah, but for me it's like, yeah, I can be colorful, and for me it's I strive to be as myself as possible, and of course be funny. I mean, make sure that the jokes that I write are are good, it land well, and then an audience themselves will be curious, when they know that you are funny, they are keen to know more, and they will talk to you after your show. That means after your show, they might come up to you and say, hey, I have a cousin who is on the spectrum, and then I also have a cousin who is like non-binary, and it is great. I mean, for me, this is the way to educate the audience, because if you are telling them facts of the case, just tell them the facts of or what is non-binary, what is autism. People will get turned off easily, because given nowadays our attention span isn't the best, So, but when you tell them in the joke form, it's funny, and they will tune in and they listen and they were like, oh, what is this? And then it sparks conversation. So I think comedy is actually a good way to let the audience know what they do not know. Yeah. And let
Yes.
them be interested in it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Congratulations for being patient with people to understand being on two spectrums. Some people are so narrow-minded that they have trouble accepting people who are different than them. So I applaud you. I applaud you. It takes a
Thanks,
lot of
Linda.
strength. Yes. And let's talk about your successes. You've been, you not only have you been able to teach people how to accept binary, non-binary, and to accept people with autism that isn't common in your area or people aren't that educated about. You've also, look at these festivals where you've been a finalist. Is it 3 festivals or 4 that you were a finalist in?
I will say that the first one is like it's a contest. I think 3 of them are not festivals. The first one is actually a contest where I actually fly into Bangkok, which is northern Malaysia. I mean, like another country north of Malaysia, and Bangkok is really nice. It's a really nice country. I mean, not nice country. It's a nice town in Thailand. That country is called Thailand. I love the food very much. It's spicy, it's hot, but it's good. And I went there, and then I emerged as the finalist of that contest. So that is great. And then when I went to UK, the 2 shows are actually gong shows. So gong shows are actually very scary, because your goal is to survive the 5 minutes. And at any point of time, the audience don't like you, or find you not funny, they can just wave a red card. And then after 3 red cards, out you go. So that is the 2 show. Gong show, Beat the Frog is Manchester, but instead of a red card, they use a frog card. So it's a frog. And then for Manchester, for what you call London, King Gong, what I call Comedy Store, that is the traditional gong show. That's a famous, legendary place. So anyone who come through London, they will definitely go and sign up a spot and see whether can they beat the gong. And I managed to beat the gong and also the frog. So, and they even like shortlist me as a finalist. Like finalist, like I think for the King Gong I'm top 7. And for the Beat the Frog, I'm top 3. So I'm like, hey, but no money, nothing, but I'm happy. Yeah, no prize money, but I'm happy anyway. Yeah.
Wow. And so what do you think it is that makes you a finalist so many times?
I would say coming in with a unique perspective. It's like I home in on what I know best. It's like, although there are a lot of common topics, I mean, every comedy clubs you will hear the typical jokes of I mean, in Malaysia it's common racist jokes. I know in America nowadays it's not really allowed, because racist jokes is considered a punch now, but in Malaysia we love it. So we tend to go there. And after that we talk about sex jokes that is common, and then unless you are very specific like Ellie Wong, if not it's difficult. You based on your specific experience, then it will work. But for me is, I admit that I don't have solid sexual experience to talk about it, and the audience will know it if I try to figure out a way to talk about it. And also one more is sex, race, politics. Okay, Malaysia's politics is a freaking mess right now. We just have a new prime minister whom we don't know who the hell he is. Really, it's like we're like, huh? Really? I mean, we don't know where he come out of the blue. It's like it's as though in Malaysia, everyone can be a prime minister. I can be a prime minister too. Yeah. So it's kind of like a mess. So there's a joke. So a lot of people will be talking about it. But for me, it's I will admit that I don't have a very strong interest politically. That means I do know about the politics, but I don't go and like, oh, like find out a lot about it. So if I just try to come up with material just based on what people would have loved, then and I don't really love, then it will also show in your materials because it shows that people will think that there's not much of depth, there's not much of a emotional connection, and there's not much of involvement because when you don't have emotions in it, your involvement will be very scarce, fast, and people will know that this person is just pandering to us. And to get the love, no, we are not going to give. Yeah, that kind of stuff. So for me is I say, okay, since I'm not too interested in whatever topics that are commonly talked about, so I talk about what I'm interested in. Yeah, and also make it funny. I mean, do the work and make them funny, and then and people will feel that, oh, okay, I'm hearing something. Firstly, it's fresh because if you are hearing 10 people saying the same things, what I'm saying, it becomes something like really fresh, and they were like, oh, let's listen more. And also on top of it, not just be fresh, it's also important to be funny because you can be fresh and be great for just 1 minute. And after that, people will like, the initial surprise is gone and this person doesn't have solid punchlines. So it's also important to hone on the material. So it's not just fresh, interesting, it's also funny. I think that's the most important because at the end of the day, I don't want to be known as a comedian who is like, oh, okay, Juliana is just the autistic comedian or Juliana is the queer comedian. It's like, for me, I'm fine with associating with the labels, but then at the end of the day, I want to be like people say, oh, Juliana is really funny, the kind of stuff, regardless of whether I'm queer or autistic, Juliana is really funny. Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's great advice for other comedians and people thinking about doing comedy is to do the material that so that it comes across like it's really you talking about things well, because there's a difference if I'm going to, if I think, oh, it's going to be funny to talk about business cards and I don't know anything about business cards, people are going to pick up on it.
Yep.
So, yeah. Yes. So when you first were growing up, I just like to go back in time. Now, when I was growing up, you got in trouble if you were funny. It was frowned on. What's it like in Malaysia being funny?
Yes, I would say that because I'm actually assigned female. So and then when you are female in an Asian society, you are actually expected to just obey, be obedient, and also be serious, be proper. You have to be proper, and joke telling, playing with your boy cousins are not acceptable things. Yeah, it's like, and then squabbling, or either cursing, definitely these are all not proper. And then for me is I love to crack jokes. I mean, like, or either do impersonation. Like sometimes I watch a movie or TV. Sometimes I will just like sort of like pretend to be that person, like just play a small part of that scene, in front of my family sometimes just for the fun of it. And my dad will be like laughing because my dad is pretty easygoing. And I would say that my dad is pretty westernized in the way whereby he is English educated. But although he's from a Chinese family, his family sent him to English school. So he's very influenced by arts and Shakespeare. And he loved all the Mr. Bean, all the good stuff like Monty Python. And also my father was enjoying, when I'm doing my antics, like doing funny faces, doing funny voices and all. And my dad loves it. But my mom was like, what is this? It's like, you are a lady and you're not supposed to do that. It's like, not how, if not, nobody wants to marry you, and you'll be my liability, So of course it's not acceptable at all. And in fact, I remember that I have an uncle, my mom's side, of course. My dad's side, people are pretty cool, but my mom's side, okay, put it this way, my mom and dad, my dad is like the Democrats, my mom is like the Republican group. So they are pretty, like terrible. So that's why my mom's side, one of the uncle, when I was like chatting, because sometimes I went back to hometown and then we would chit chat and then hang out and then eat. And then what happened was this uncle actually tell me like, Juliana, I actually don't like it that you talk too much. It's like, and then I was like, wow, it's like, he said, a woman shouldn't talk too much. I was like, wow, it's like, but that time I don't really dare to say anything. I'm just, the kind of stuff. But today I think I would just flip him the bird, if he say that, if he ever said that. I was like, what? Like, I'm not a woman, by the way. Get your pronouns right, Okay, I don't usually harp on pronouns with people, but if the person is someone that I don't like, I will really like impeach on, get your pronouns right, the kind of stuff. But normally a lot of people they kind of like mix it up, because now this is something pretty new, I believe, for you, Linda, as well, all these pronounced things. So
Yeah.
it is actually fine for me. Is even my dad misgender me all the time. My dad was, oh, Juliana Heng is my very beautiful daughter. I was like, no, pa, no. But for me, is I know it doesn't come from a place of malice, so that is fine. So, but if people, I mean, of course, we can know if, let's say, the person comes across as wanting to offend you, like purposely misgendering you and all. But so far, I am blessed to haven't meet anyone who intentionally misgender me. Most people just like, oh, they just misgender, but it's normally out of just like they don't know. And in Malaysia, it's pretty commonplace. That's why when people tell me that she, her, or whatever, especially in Malaysia, I don't really want to bother much. But if they want to listen, of course, I will tell them. But most of the people don't even know what queer people is. It's like a lot of time I'm actually their first friend, their first queer friend. So it's weird. Yeah, in Malaysia, it's like I'm kind of like their first queer friend, like, oh, I have one queer friend and is Juliana, or either, but not many. It's like some people have never even met a queer in their life, in Malaysia. Because we are very closeted, we don't come out openly, and it's hard to come out openly in Asia. Yeah.
Yes. Have you ever been afraid for your life? Have people ever threatened you because they're just stupid or afraid or prejudiced against it?
No, I mean, for me is I'm actually quite lucky to not be threatened, because I'm actually a signed female. So in Malaysia, if you are a female dressing up like in boys' clothes or what, to them is you're just a tomboy, and they don't bother. And tomboy is actually very different from being queer. Some of the tomboys that I know are straight, or either some of them could be lesbian, but they are not really non-binary, the kind of non-binary, some of them may not even look like me. They may look like a typical cis woman, but they use they them pronouns as well. So there is no particular look that comes with non-binary or gender identity. So for me, it's because when they perceive that, oh, okay, this is actually a girl wearing a boy's clothes, they don't think much about it, compared to if the reverse happened. That means, let's say I'm actually a signed male and I'm wearing heels, I'm wearing glitter, I'm wearing makeup and a dress. That is dangerous. In Malaysia, they could harm you down, because to them Malaysia is kind of patriarchal. That means they use a lot of their patriarchy. The country is a bit quite patriarchy. So man is very strong, important, and if, let's say, you are effeminated, or either dress up in women's clothing, you are an abomination to the male gender. And then they will quietly hide. I mean, this is what I heard from my other friends, where my other queer friends who do drag, they love dressing up as women and not do drag queen, whatever. But
Yes.
the moment they walk out of their house, I mean, not house lah, I mean, let's say, for example, they are actually hanging out with their friends, but in heels and all. But the moment they saw like a group of guys waiting somewhere at the alley, they will quickly take out their high heels, and then maybe they will quickly just take something, cover over their shirt, so that it doesn't look like a feminine top or what. And then they will just quickly wipe off their just a lipstick or what, and then just quickly walk back to their car, because they are afraid that they will really be beaten up, because these people sometimes are offended by what they do, and it is sad. So that's why I said that I'm actually pretty lucky that I'm not the main target group. People don't just look for me like that. But my other queer friends who are like also non-binary, but they are assigned male, they don't share the same kind of privilege to walk out openly dressing what they want. They can only do it at safe spaces, like maybe a queer party. They have to pack up their shirt and then come, and in the clubhouse itself only they will change and be who they are. And then after that, when the show ended, or either the party ends, they have to dress up, the drag whatever, and then go out again. They cannot be who they are out there.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sad. Yeah.
It's very sad.
Yeah.
A lot of what you spoke about with your father and your mother, and your comedy and growing up, that women have to be a certain way, is exactly how I was raised in America in the 50s. So I related to it. And my mother treated me very much like your mother. And women were not supposed to talk. And children were not supposed to talk. And so, like, for me to do comedy, I waited until my parents passed away to do comedy.
Oh my God. That's such a long time. You really definitely come a long way.
Thank you.
Wow.
When you were growing up in school, you must have had a sense of humor and saw the funny in things. Am I right?
Yes.
I'd like to know what it was like to go through school with you.
I actually admit that I'm kind of an oddball at school where I don't have much friends because I'm weird, I have my own kind of interests, and then I don't, and then the others find me like difficult to hang out because because sometimes I do talk about imaginary friends and they would think that you're crazy, that kind of stuff. And I do impersonation, and I'm from a Asian school, and not only that, I'm from Chinese school. So Chinese school is like is the most, if you want to say what is the most the square peg, they say square peg in a round hole I can be. It's like the best place to be for a person who is a square peg is in a Chinese school where you are actually like just the oddball. And then these people are also following the rules. They are all rule followers, and they listen to whatever the teacher says. So for myself, I'm someone who doesn't. So that actually irritates the teacher, and the other students don't like me. They were like, what is this? Only those students who are like, I mean, I tend to make friends with other kids outside of my class. That means not for my class. For my class, nobody really takes me seriously, and then nobody like wants to talk to me because, but don't get me wrong, in spite of me being goofy around and then saying stupid things and all, I still do well in my studies. But I just don't click with any of them. In fact, my best friends are actually from other classes, and according to my mom, the classes are called stupid classes where they are not smart students, but they are street smart. Those kids that I hang out with, they are actually, because in Malaysia, I don't know, this is really funny, where you need to go to the science stream. We have something called science stream and art stream. Science stream is you are very good in mathematics. This is very Asian. You're good in mathematics, so you go and do the science and you become a doctor. That's what Asian parents all want their kids to be. And I'm actually in that class because I don't know what I really want to do. So I say, now let's just keep the option open and do science. And after that, there's the other group is called the art stream. Art stream is where you learn literature, and that's where comedy all come from. Arts, and then music or painting. And according to Asian society, this is called the stupid class. You are, if you enter the art stream, you are stupid. You cannot make the grades. So all the smart students, they will shift to science. The dumb students will go to art. So we were like, but I hang out with the arts people very well. I actually, during recess, I will walk over to their block and I will hang out with them. And that's why I kind of know that maybe these are my people. It's just that back then I'm not so brave to make decisions that actually goes there, but my heart has been with them. So we love like going around, and then we pretend, and then we make fun of discipline teachers. Discipline teachers is also another very important character in school. These are teachers who carry long cane, big long cane, and they will threaten using their weapon. If you make noise, we are going to slam the table, and then you all will scared and go back to your seat. It's I would say that Asian schools are rather abusive actually, especially I mean at my time, but I heard it was worse before my time, whereby back then teachers who cane the students they don't even dare to tell their parents, because what happened, the parent will cane them another round for being naughty. So nobody, so when my father's time and all, what happened was, if let's say they get into trouble, the teacher beat them, spank them or whatever, they will just keep their mouth shut. They don't tell their parents, because if you tell your parents like, oh, you're such a naughty boy, tell me about it. Then the parent will beat another time. It's hilarious. So it's very common. In fact, child beating and all, it's very, very common in Asia. It's quite come to a point that it's shocking that it's acceptable. In fact, we were like we can laugh about it. But people, if let's say people like from the West, they will feel like, wow, this is insane. And but my time is like they had a bit of an equilibrium whereby teachers still beat the children, but the children are a bit more vocal to tell their parents about it. We can actually tell our parents whether we get beat or not. We don't care. We are just like, oh, you beat me, fine. But if you don't, but some parents are a bit more protective, so they will come and look for the teacher like, why do you do that to my kid? That kind of stuff. But today is the reverse, the complete reverse. Teacher, you have to be very careful not to lay a hand on the child, because the parents, people like roughly my age, most of the kids nowadays, the parents could be like maybe a bit older than me, maybe 5 to 10 years older than me. So they don't like this kind of thing of beating children. So if the teachers today actually beat the kid, the parents will go and screw the teacher inside out. I tell you, that's the reverse today. So the parents are pretty protective, yeah, of their kids nowadays. So back then teachers have their days of like the kind of stuff. But now no, yeah. But for me, it's pretty hard because I'm kind of like an outcast. So I have to find my own group of friends. Yeah, but being on the spectrum, it's not easy to find your own group of friends, because not everybody understand your come from. It's like they don't really understand why you behave the way you do, and they find you weird, and nobody wants to be associated with a weirdo, because that will make them to lose friends, by association. So it's like if let's say, for example, there are some people who are ambivalent about me. That means they don't hate me or they don't particularly like me. So the safe place to be is to just avoid me, because if they are seen hanging out with me, other kids will start picking on them. They're like, ah, you're with the weirdo, ha ha ha, that guys are, you're so weirdo. And they are not comfortable to be in that category. But there are some who just don't care. So they are my people, those people who don't care. So at the end of the day, it's all about finding your own tribe and then continue to be who you are. I mean that I know that not everybody likes me for who I am, but because being on the spectrum, it is actually a beauty on its own, where you are kind of like in your own world. You have your own rationale of things. You have your own way of how the world works, and you don't really bother what other people think about you. It's like they have their own way of doing things. I have my own way, and for me, is I don't really care less about what they are doing with their life. So that is how I kind of survive, because I think a lot of people who have gone through isolation and loneliness in high school, it's a very traumatic experience, because people always say, I mean, I studied on a research where they say that the pain of loneliness is equivalent to someone beating you up. It's equivalent to a physical pain. So yeah, they say that loneliness is actually as painful as a physical pain, because the brain doesn't recognize the difference. The brain just think that it's physical pain. But the thing is, for me, is I kind of like managed to cushion a lot of the pain, because I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'm alone. Not now. I will use the time to go to the library to read some books. Like some weird books on turtles. And I enjoy that. So it's like it's kind of like finding your own joy in spite of all the terrible things that thrown to you. But you just have a different filter. I mean, rather than seeing it the way neurotypical people will see that, oh my god, this is awful. I'm really sad. Let me try to fit in so I can get more friends. But for me, is my filter is screw them, that kind of stuff. That's my filter. So it somehow kind of like saved me in a lot of situations. But it's fun. I mean, people who hang out with me, they had fun of me performing like impersonations to them, and then I was just like, and I watched American Idol a lot back then, so I will impersonate Simon Cowell. I don't have the British accent. I'm not that good in accents, but I will do the way Juliana Heng would do when speaking like Simon Cowell, like, you can sing, you can dance, what else you want me to say? This is grotesque. It's like I will do all this like Simon Cowell cover stuff, and whoever who hangs out with me, and then they get to see all this crazy stuff, crazy side of me. And then every time we watch movies and all, I will just act out part of the movies, and then just, oh, there's this Viking show I watched long time ago, but this is still my favorite. It's hilarious, where these two Viking, they're actually from the Viking era in don't know what year. They actually come to the 2000s. And then they were like, this is the 2000s. And they went to the toilet. The first thing they go is to go to the toilet of all places. And they just look and say, ooh, the throne. And they start bowing to the toilet bowl. And they start taking the, what you call, toilet bowl water, and they splash on their face. Fresh, clean water from the throne. And after that, they just take the tissue, long towel with fragrance. So I always do that. I mean, I just pick stupid scenes, and then I just reenact it for my friends, those who bother to hang out with me. So maybe that is when I really started my comedy career, using other people's materials.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Are you a fan of Steve Martin and Martin Short?
Yeah, I like Steve Martin. I haven't really seen much of Martin Short's work, but I heard about him. But Steve Martin is hilarious. Yeah, he has a lot of physical comedy.
Yes.
And he's very oddball, and he don't really care. That's what I like about him. It's like people will say, oh, he's a prop comic. I mean, I know he has his fair share of people hating him. People like, what is this guy? This is not even a pure. I mean, there are comedy purists everywhere. Everywhere there are comedy purists who always say that comedy is just set up and punchline. Other than that, fuck you, it's not comedy. But Steve Martin don't care. That's the coolest thing. So he can play an accordion, harmonica on stage, sing song, play banjo, and he enjoys it. So everyone also, whoever who watch it, if you have joy in your heart, you will enjoy him. But some people don't have. They are cynic. They are angry people. They will like, they'll get out, that kind of stuff. But for us, if you say you have naturally have joy in your heart, you will love Steve Martin.
Yes. Yeah. So I do these interviews, and Martin Short, comedian, he does a lot with Steve Martin, and he also does these interviews where he acts. You have to see one. It's called Jiminy Glick, Jiminy Glick, Glick, and he'll go, so Juliana, whatever your last name is. Yeah. So by the way, don't you like my shirt? You know, like he does everything you're not supposed
Wow.
to do. You'll love it.
Yes.
I have,
Yeah.
I just love those interviews.
Yeah. I actually love it because there is something called, they call it irreverence. There's a term called irreverence where you disregard the norm, you disregard the common things that's happening, and you just do things the own way. Although Steve Martin looks like someone who is jovial, have a lot of fun, but deep down he is a rebel. That's why he can do this kind of thing. He can be himself and do that. So people were like, oh, this guy is rather crazy, but we love it, that kind of stuff.
Yes. Up until Steve Martin and David Letterman, comedians in America were all kind of the same. And
Yep.
then David Letterman and Steve Martin were like off the rails,
David is
crazy.
great. David
Yeah.
Letterman is great.
I
Yeah.
love him. So you've been doing comedy since, did you say 2009?
Okay, not that long. Okay, for me is I started in 2015. But I
15.
actually after do like September 2015, but after I did a few mics, I actually like kind of like quit, because I feel that maybe it's not for me. But 2 years later I came back, I mean 2017, that's when I really started doing comedy until today. So that's why when people ask me like, oh, like what's the difference? For me, so I say yes, there is a difference because you cannot go around telling people that you're doing comedy when you're only showing up, say once in 3 months, that kind of stuff. Once in 3 months, you just go there and say hello, and then you just tell a bunch of stuff and you walk out. Because doing comedy is kind of like an everyday thing. You have to go and hit the stage every day. So I don't even want to count the first 2 years where I actually quit and then I even went on to do other things. And then, but upon a friend's invitation, I actually came back lah, like say that, hey, I think you shouldn't. I mean, he does ask me like, why you quit, that kind of stuff. Then I told him about an experience where I performed at a bar show, but I was ambitious. I thought that open mic is a bit limiting, so I say let's go to a bar show. Very smart way to do things. Haha, good luck. And you know what? People actually, because when you are doing bar show, you are working with musicians as well, and musicians, the friends, all the audience are actually okay. I hate to say this. It's easier for a musician to have fans than for a comedian too. For a comedian, you don't really have fans that easily compared to musicians. So most of the people at the bar show, the audience there are all musician friends. That means the fans of the musician, and they are all waiting for the music. They are all waiting for the song. But you are the comic. You are actually hogging the stage. They have to wait for you to perform before their musician friend come up. So you better be funny. If let's say you're not funny, they will look at you like they're going to throw a beer bottle at you. So for me, I got that stat. That's why they give me 15 minutes. I ran off at 7 because I am a bit afraid. I was like, oh my god, these people look so scary, like but the thing is, if you are good, it's fine. That means you are joke all the way for the 15 minutes. They won't mind because they are enjoying themselves while waiting for their friend to come up. But when you are just telling stories that you believe you are funny, because the time I only started comedy, like only doing 2-3 times, of course, you don't have solid jokes that time. When you are just doing a couple of times, you really have nothing. And you think that you have something, but they are all just statements, stories, but they have no punchlines and there's no surprise, no twist center, nothing. So people get agitated. So I actually got scared by the experience. I went back. I told my friends this experience. My friend said, hey, I think you actually went to the wrong place to work on your talent, work on your skill and all. You have to come back to the open mic circuits because the open mic audience are people who are watching comedians. And on top of that, they are already preempted by audience to know that these are jokes may fail, because it's an open mic, it's not a proper comedy show. So they are there to be audience, to be the test audience. So you have to go back there and work your craft. So of course I go back there again. But this time I do meet a few comedy comrades, like people who we went to workshop. I mean, I have this teacher who actually, comedy teacher, he's a comedian himself, but he's part of a dual group. Like both of them, they are in double act. So, but unfortunately, the group already splitted because of personal, like they have personal directions to go. One of them wanted to be a sort of like a professional public speaker. Another still wants to do comedy. So the one who wants to do comedy is my sifu, my teacher. So he told me that, Juliana, that's what he told me. He said that, do you know that I saw you at open mic bombing every single week, but you still come back. It's like I actually think that I should work with you, just come to my class. He's actually having a comedy workshop, and he say, no, the fee is actually a price of the coffee at the cafe, because he's using the cafe space to teach us comedy. So I'm like, sure, let's go, and then, but he also wanted to prove one thing, that comedy can be taught, because okay, I may have funny bone, but it doesn't mean that it's being funny on stage. You can be funny bone, but it's just like you're bouncing everywhere without a single direction. So people would just think that this Juliana doesn't have any natural talent. She's not funny, and if she tries doing comedy, she will suffer the rest of the life. That's what a lot of people in my scene said when I first go up stage. Every week I'm bombing, don't know what I'm doing. People say that. Some people even say she is so bad, she shouldn't even go up the stage, that kind of stuff. Yeah, then but my teacher don't believe that. My teacher said, let's see whether can comedy be taught. He just wanted to know whether can comedy be taught. So he said okay, and then so the thing is, I went, and then I think few months later, I mean, I slowly get the hang of it, but it does take me a while to kind of understand the comedy. But that is also based on observation. That means I start watching comedy specials, and I start reading books on comedy. I can nerd out on stuff. So I start reading, okay, this is how comedy works. It's not just going up there and telling some story and think it'll be funny. You have to structure it, and also watch other comedians in my scene, how they do their craft, and also watching other things apart. Like don't just watch stand-up comedy, watch other genres of comedy, like maybe watching also like comedy movies like Judd Apatow, all these things. So it's actually, it helps you understand the structure of comedy, because comedy is kind of like music in a way, whereby they have certain structure to make the music make sense. So as long as you listen music enough, you develop a musical ear. So comedy is the same thing. If you listen to comedy enough, like watch comedy, listen to comedy album, and also like maybe tips from other comedians, you eventually get a hang of how a joke sound like. To me, it becomes a bit of a musical approach to me. Yeah. Is your mic okay?
It becomes a
Oh, it becomes kind of like a musical. I look at it in a quite a musical way, where if you hear enough songs, you should be able to know how a good song sounds like. So same as a joke, the more jokes you listen, you watch and listen, and when you actually write, eventually you kind of know the structure. You like, okay, it's like for me is when I started off, when I go to an open mic, I will literally like bomb the whole thing. That means if I were to do a brand new set, it will all be like silence, crickets, nothing. But nowadays, when I think now, because I'm in it for about 4 years already, nowadays, even if I can be going in with brand new materials, but I would still say that the hit rate is pretty good. That means I would say maybe 5-10, I mean 5-6, 5-10 or 6-10. It's not too bad actually compared to last time where it's like 0-10 or 1-10. So it's like you kind of eventually know how a joke sound like. So even if you are writing new stuff, it shouldn't bomb, because you already know that, okay, there needs to be a punchline here, there needs to be a bit of setup, maybe add in a bit of more words, or don't have too many words, edit, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, but one thing I do learn from comedy is be a really good editor, because I can be very long-winded, and I enjoy myself being long-winded. That's the best part. So, but that cannot be said the same for the audience. So I have to learn how to edit. Like, okay, this is not really funny. It's just information. Let's take that out. Although it's like, my baby, I just write this. It's beautiful. But sorry, you got to go. Because you did not contribute to the final punchline. That kind of stuff. So it's actually helped me a lot in editing my thoughts. So I become a bit more more focused. At least I know that, okay, I only have this amount of time on stage. Let me get this amount of jokes out, and then it needs to end on a nice note, on a laughter. So you structure. It's a lot about structuring. Yeah.
yes.
So it's like people say that you are natural. That's why I say that I said that when people tell me that, Juliana, you're such a natural, I said I did a good job, because I make it look natural, but it's not. There's a lot of things running in my head actually.
It must be a lot to, like being on the spectrum and trying to be, not too many words and focused to create the material, to practice it, to edit it yourself. I do it with a brain injury.
Oh,
And there's some similarities between autism and a brain injury in trying to do work.
yep,
Fortunately, it's art, so it's using the
yep,
right side of the
correct.
brain, right?
Yes.
You have overcome so much all the way. Everything you've said are things that, where you weren't understood or accepted, or you had challenges, and you've overcome them all, every single one of them. So, like your life and my life is identical. and I'm an old white straight lady from America, and it's like we could have been saying the same thing, and it's the same things we've been through. So I'm really proud of all you have overcome, and I see how much it would have been a challenge to do comedy, and you're doing it at such a high level. I mean, look at the things you've accomplished. The Fringe Festival, Edinburgh. Oh my gosh. So I applaud you for that.
Thanks, Linda.
I mean it. That I was impressed, and then I hear the backstory of all the things you've overcome to get here, and you might have dropped out for a little while. We all do, but you, in the long haul, you're still in it, and you're winning at it.
Yay!
And you're teaching people, and you don't do it from a mean space. Like, listen, you guys, I'm sick and tired of you not accepting. You don't.
No.
And when I got done being on your show, thank you, by the way. When I got done being on your show, you showed so much respect and so much love to everybody afterwards that I was like, Juliana, I want to hear what you have to say about me. Where's mine?
Yeah, but I'm kind of like, I mean, yeah, speaking about that is like, because the thing is, I mean, this is kind of like a very spectrum thing where I actually, when I actually post about everyone, just like a commentary on anyone, that's like kind of like my habit since I started the show for 3 years ago. Then yeah, 3 years ago, I started the show in 2018, and it's still going on now, so it's great. And then I'm really happy. And but the thing is, I have a peculiar habit where every act that's on my show, I will firstly write them. That means write about them. So everyone, so far, no one is missing. Like there's no such thing as a missing person. You know, it's like I figure out to like have everybody's photo and all, a screenshot, photo or whatever. And after that, I write about them. But they have to be in a particular order, which is the lineup. You know, like the lineup that I have arranged, they has to be in that same order. So I'm like, Linda, sorry, I have to wait because I'm actually doing a bit of chores here and there, running errands here and there. So anytime I have a bit of a time to breathe, I will just quickly like, okay, let's just, and I make sure that I rewatch everyone's set because I want to write an accurate representation, because sometimes when I first hear a joke for the first time, I don't usually get it. Yeah, I don't usually get it. So I give it a listen a second time at my own time, and then I will come up with a commentary. And it's hilarious, right? People say that, so you know what happened, like my friend tell me, so what happened if someone actually literally asks you to change their photo? Because it happens, some people don't like the screenshot I took about them, like maybe their face look like that, and they're not happy, they want to look like this, like the nice graceful self, you know. Okay, all right, not all comedians are willing to be stupid, some of them still want to look graceful, so they say, I don't want this photo, I want this, you know. So I said, okay, fine. But what happened is, the funny thing is they're actually in like the first few of the lineup. I was like, damn it, you know what that means? That means I have to delete everyone. But of course, I copy paste all their description elsewhere. And then I have to delete all those like 10 people behind her, and then change her picture. And after that, repost all the 10 people back. So that is how, because Instagram, it appears in a certain order. I mean, Facebook is, I'm not so fuzzy with Facebook, but Instagram, it really has that order. And I was like, oh, I relish that order, you know. So I was like, okay. So when people ask me to change photo, that is when I really get like, you know, like, yeah, it's hilarious. It's like I have to throw all the 10 people out. They are all innocent. You know, and after that, change the photo and bring all of them back again.
What would you like to say to people that are listening that I need to go do one more interview tonight, but I have a few minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. What would you like to say to people before you sign off about comedy, about the world, about what you're trying to do with the rest of your life? What would you like to say to people, Juliana?
So for me is to everyone who is listening, I hope that whoever you are, continue to be yourself. You don't need to, okay, not everybody needs to like you. You also don't need to like, that give you the freedom to not like everybody too. So it's like there's no need to, I mean, okay, the pursuit of popularity is a bit overrated. So focus on getting good. You know, it's like there's no need to focus on, oh, I need to be popular. No, yes, being popular is fun, but then you don't want to be popular for the wrong things, you know, but not popular, being famous, famous for the wrong thing. Yes. You want to be, you rather focus on being good. And when your focus is actually being good as a comedian, you no longer rush, you know, because a lot of times, especially we Asian people, we tend to want to rush to reach a certain rank. Again, we left a corporate job and we wanted to climb the comedy corporate ladder. We want to be like, okay, a certain year I need to be doing this, that, whatever. But the thing is, when you do that, you actually deprive yourself of the joy of just doing comedy. It's like you if you focus on saying, no, I'm not climbing the ladder, I'm just focusing on getting good. And that's when it makes a difference, because no amount of time horizon is actually pressure on you. It doesn't put you on any pressure anymore, because you're actually discovering at your own time. And even if people around you are getting gigs, like for example, they are getting TV gigs, they are moving like much ahead of you or what, you don't need to care. You just know that, well, it's not my time now. Let me go back to the grindstone. Let me continue working on my stuff. So firstly, it makes you a happier person. And secondly, you're working on your craft on your own terms and you're not competing with anybody. And I think that's the most important thing. So in this case, like they say, there's a term called you march at the beat of your own drum. And I think I actually embody that pretty well. I don't really care. The world could be moving at very, very fast, or either they can be moving very slow, but I don't care. I just run your own race. Yeah. And most importantly, have fun, because we leave a corporate job not to just be in another corporate. It's miserable. So you want to just have as much fun with your new lease of life. So that's about it. Take care and stay safe, and then have fun, and then be yourself. Yeah.
I love that. This is very inspiring. So would you do me a favor when you get off of this Zoom,
Sure.
Juliana, will you send me all your social media so I have it at my fingertips, and I'll put it
Yay.
on this post?
Yes, definitely.
And I'll share it with a bunch of groups. So I have like 10 Facebook groups.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, I got nothing else to do all day. So it's not that I'm very smart. It's just like I sit around and tinker.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll share it with all these groups.
Sure.
And I just love you to pieces. The way you treat other people, the way you showed me how you treat other people told me so much. And getting to interview and find out that you and I had so many similarities growing up and you've overcome them. You're just a dear to me. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, you're
Juliana
welcome.
Heng.
Thank you so much for having me too.
Come to America. And when you do, come to Vegas.
Definitely.
All right. Let me know when you come. Love
Yeah.
you.
Bye. Love you
Bye.
too. Take care.
You too.